Alright, so I thought I'd kind of give some F1 news before the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend. It was a pretty busy week. It started out slow and then got kind of busy. Adrian Sutil is facing possible criminal charges. He's most certainly facing an investigation over a possible assault on the owner of the Renault F1 team while they were all there at a club during the weekend of the Chinese Grand Prix. So, possible charges there. The executive, the owner of Renault F1, has said that there was an assault that occurred, or a battery that occurred, yada yada yada. Investigation charges, will be pressed as far as the victim's concerned. Whether or not the prosecutor files charges is a whole other matter. But very, very interesting stuff there. Sutil saying that he's trying to focus as much as possible during the race weekend, trying to work, as well for Force India as he can under the circumstances, but not where any driver wants to be as far as getting mentally prepared for a race and having to worry about criminal battery charges. They call it something else. It's causing grievous bodily harm or something. So, anyways, that's going on with Sutil. Other big news, Fernando Alonso has now signed with Ferrari through 2016, so he'll be there for the next 5 years. So, congrats to Fernando. He's done a really good job, and I think Ferrari will be looking for a world championship this year. I think that they'll be pushing Fernando to get them to that spot. So, good news for him. Pretty much all of the teams are bringing pretty big updates to Spain. They call the BBC commentators and Twitterverse call the Turkish Grand Prix the first race of the European season. So far, I haven't seen that. I always feel like Turkey is kind of its own beast with, Turn 8 and all of the problems and difficulties that come with Turkey. I feel like that's kind of its own race. I feel like the real European season doesn't get kicked off until the race after Turkey. So that's the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend, and they're pretty much all bringing pretty substantial updates, at least, in number and substance. I think McLaren's bringing 10 plus upgraded pieces. So, and I was looking through the BBC and Twitter, and a bunch of teams are bringing upgrades. Heikki Kovalainen with Team Lotus, they're bringing pretty big upgrades. I'm ready for them to start genuinely contending with the Saubers and the Williams and the Force Indias of the pack. I think they're almost there. I think they've gotten, they certainly have the drivers in Heikki Kovalainen and Jarno Trulli. They have the engine with a Renault unit. We know that engine can win races, whether it's powering a Renault or certainly a Red Bull. The engine is there, the power is there, so they're going to be focusing on aero and balance, and I think it's time. I think, as a huge Heikki and Lotus fan, I want them to start challenging, but I think they're going to be there. I think they're there too. I think they've gotten to the point where, okay, they had their first season running a pretty rough Cosworth engine, not a whole lot of development, and now, under Mike Gascoigne, I think they're ready to start pushing. So watch out for Lotus. I hope they're going to start challenging. Like I said, most of the teams bringing upgrades, and what we'll probably see this weekend is a bunch of teams who will have brought upgrades. What happens a lot when they bring major updates to the car, not just a new front nose, but, a whole new aero package, is that a lot of times these pieces will go on the car, and then come midday Friday, they'll start saying, well, this isn't performing like we thought it would. They design the pieces, they run them in computer simulations, they run them, the teams that have wind tunnels run them in wind tunnels, but a lot of times they don't know how the pieces are going to actually perform until they get them on the cars. So what we'll see a lot tomorrow, I believe, is a bunch of teams trying out their new parts, and then a bunch of teams probably taking some of them off. Maybe they'll find that half half their upgrades work, the other half need more tweaking. And the real sense there is that while they are maybe trying to push forward as far as extra downforce, extra grip where they can get it, if they don't know how a piece is going to perform or if it's performing badly, they'll fall back to the piece that they may not like as much, but they know is going to run. And a lot of times when you start messing with aero, you start messing with airflow and engine cooling and, is it blowing the diffuser correctly? Another big kind of news, there were a couple of pretty big regulatory news breaks that happened this weekend. The F1 teams have kind of bucked what the FIA wanted. The FIA's got a whole raft of new changes for 2013. The big one, probably for most fans and commentators and teams, is a switch to a smaller engine. They're moving from a small V8 to a very small turbocharged four-cylinder. And I think, there are still some teams that are reticent. I know Bernie Ecclestone's not too happy about it, but I think it's a good push for them as far as attracting new engine manufacturers and kind of moving Formula One in a greener direction. So I'm looking forward to that. But one of the changes that had been on the table were ground effects, and reducing the coefficient of drag on the cars. And basically, the teams have said, we'll agree to a whole host of changes, but we don't want ground effects. So basically, I think like the coefficient of drag of the current cars is 0.9. Bernie had wanted 0.5, and they're settling around 0.7. So the team's bucking, and it'll be kind of up to the FIA whether they want to try to push through the changes or let the teams kind of dictate, well, we'll meet you halfway, but we're not willing to go all the way. So that's going on. So pretty interesting stuff there. I'm looking forward to this weekend. I'm currently on a little break between semesters. I've watched the 2007, 2009, and 2010 Grand Prix, so Spanish Grand Prix. So needless to say, I'm ready for Spain. I hope you guys are as well. I'll be back throughout the weekend with any big news, any updates, and of course results for qualifying in the race. I'll talk to you guys later.